Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. Happy to have on board today Sean Adkins. And kind of strange to think of you, Sean. I describe you as the outgoing town manager in St. Albans town, but thanks for some time. I guess this will be our, at least in this current position, our last interview, and I appreciate your accessibility over a couple of years and stuff. But
Absolutely.
anyway, good to see you. We're taping this show on Tuesday, July 8th. And your last day is end of next week, huh?
Yeah, July 18th.
July 18th.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's hard to believe. Yeah, just over 2 years.
Wow. So about 2 years. So it sounds like you've nailed down a good job, kind of right in your wheelhouse. So what, exec director of the Rutland Redevelopment Authority?
Yep, the RRA for it's basically the city of Rutland's economic development component, their arm. Yep. So, yeah, fully planned on finishing out the 3-year contract.
So you had another year. You could have stayed on for your contract at least one more year.
Yeah, it was June of 2026, and I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad I came here.
Yeah.
It kind of what brought me back home to New England.
Right, with your Connecticut roots. Have you been in Virginia for a number of years?
Yeah, I was in the South for over just about a decade.
Wow.
But yeah, now that I've lived in northern Vermont for a couple of years, I don't think I consider Connecticut New England anymore.
Yeah, northern New England's pretty different terrain than, I'm from Boston area. And
Yeah.
A little different down there.
Yeah. I used to ride my Harley all year round, and up
Really?
here I said I would do it, and nope, there's no way. It's 40 degrees in Vermont's a lot different than 40 in Connecticut or even in
But you've been
Virginia.
doing your Harley in summer, just in warmer weather?
Yep,
Okay.
spring, summer, fall. I pretty much do it as long as I
But
as
no,
long as I
but no
can.
winter.
No winter.
Can understand that.
Yeah, between the salt, really, actually, the salt and the
Yeah.
sand and the roads, it's a tough.
So have you got a
It's
little
tough,
downtime between jobs, or do you go right into your Rutland job when you leave here?
No, I gave myself a couple weeks.
That's good.
Yep. I'd like to say to decompress, but I'm not really going to have that opportunity either.
Yeah.
So I have keep my hands down here. I have paint all over my hands and probably in my hair. Finishing my house up and put that on the market and get a place down there and transition down there.
I don't know Rutland well. I play tennis here once in a while, but my former housemate Sherry ended up moving down that way some years ago. But it sounds like Rutland's got some life to it.
It does. I was kind of.
Did you know Rutland before? You know it obviously better by the day now. Did you have much of a feel for Rutland before this came up?
Not too much.
Yeah.
To be honest, as I looked into Rutland, and even just kind of heard of Rutland over the last 2 years, I actually compare it to St. Albans in terms of the perception of it outside of it.
Doesn't have the best
reputation.
Yeah.
Same thing with St. Albans
Yeah.
throughout Vermont, and then you get here, and it's, at least in my opinion, it's not. It's actually a pretty nice place.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's bigger than St. Albans. The downtown is certainly bigger also.
I guess second biggest city in Vermont next to Burlington. Population, we're talking like 20, 25 or somewhere in there, 20s?
The city itself is about
Not
just
even-
over 16.
Not even that.
Yeah,
And of course, just like up here, you got Rutland City and Rutland Town surrounding it.
Yep. I've also heard that there's a similar dynamic there as well.
Huh.
So it's, but I'll tell you, I was kind of blown away by it once I really looked into it and went down there a couple times.
Huh.
And just the opportunity to go back into, my bread and butter.
Yeah, which again is more economic.
Economic development,
Yeah.
yep. Especially their TIF district. It's, that's effectively, me and Dom say it all the time, it's like
Interesting.
it's the most important tool of economic development that Vermont has ever provided.
Yeah.
And they're at year one in that process. So,
Interesting. And I guess they've given, I can only assume they've talked to Don. Haven't they checked out the situation in St. Albans with TIF? I think they did anyway.
I'm sure they
I've
have.
seen stories. I'm sure they have.
They work with, are going to work with White and Burke, which is who David worked with Dom here in St. Albans. He does a lot of the TIF stuff throughout the state. But yeah, I'm inheriting basically about $20 million worth of projects right off the bat.
Wow.
Most of that are basically 2 projects between the Paramount Theater and the 7-story hotel.
Yeah, we talked about off here, One of my good buddies, the Nighthawk of our sports show fame, goes down to the Paramount all the time. I've walked in there, I haven't seen a performance here, but sounds like a beautiful theater that's gonna get even better. It sounds like a
Yeah.
great resource, and that's right near your office, you say?
Yeah, 1 block away. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It really is. It's a pretty nice downtown.
Huh.
I mean, again, I'd heard about it. Honestly, my first few weeks here, actually, I was sitting next to somebody at Twigs, just a stranger who happened to be from Rutland,
Yeah,
and we were just kind of talking shop a little bit, and you know, you just kind of hear it, Rut Vegas, and as people call it, I get Rut Vegas. Yeah.
huh.
Nobody's been able to tell me why.
Oh, is that right? I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, it's that nickname. I've heard it a lot over the last few
Really?
weeks.
Huh.
Yeah, but I'll find out eventually. But
Yeah. But this job just sounded kind of too good to pass up, just right in your wheelhouse again, huh?
yep, yeah, that's really it. I was kind of headhunted for it,
Huh.
recruited to it,
Wow.
and you know, kind of looked at it and was like, what is it? You know, because director of economic development can mean different things depending on
Yeah,
you know where you are, locality, and all that. And the more I looked into it, I was like, holy cow! All right,
wow.
sure, yeah, I'll try this. You know, see if it's a fit, and
Huh.
yeah, it just kind of not quickly. It's, you know, at this point in my career, it takes a month or two process, but yeah, and to be honest with you, it's a little bittersweet too, because we
Yeah.
got I'd like to think we've done some pretty good things since I've been here.
That was one question, 2 years into your job here as
Mhm.
St. Albans Town Manager. Do you feel you're leaving St. Albans Town in better shape than when you showed up a couple of years ago?
I do, yeah, I do. I don't know if you saw the article that came out from Josh at the Messenger, but you know, some of the things I kind of laughed at that I'm proud of, like
I did catch that.
yeah, just by upgrading our phone system. You know, you couldn't even tell if somebody had called.
Is that right?
Yeah, if they didn't leave a voicemail
Really?
with their phone number,
Huh.
we would have no way to know that we
Really?
missed a call or
Wow.
who would call back,
Huh.
which is pretty dangerous in public service, because then you get somebody who says, I called you, and you didn't call me back. Well,
Right.
I didn't know you called.
Interesting.
So even just a little
So you got that
silly
worked out.
thing like that, yeah. And we have IT now, we have HR now. In my opinion, those
Of
are,
course, you showed up just I guess, soon after they were in the new town hall.
yeah, yes, yeah, I'm grateful for that also. And it is a nice office, and I'm gonna miss the office for sure.
Yeah. The water issue was a big issue that delayed that. Is that settled? Is that still an ongoing concern, or it's a water quality issue?
It's potable,
It's
technically,
potable.
yeah. It's the reverse osmosis system.
Yeah,
It's another silly little thing, but I got a water cooler for the office.
yeah,
It's just a little salty, but it is. Other than that, I'm just being a little harsh there, but
yeah,
but no, everything's fine
yeah.
on that front. Yeah.
So I guess the town, I interviewed Jonathan Giroux a
Mhm.
few weeks ago, the town select board chair, and he said as soon as he left the interview, he said, I'm making some calls about trying to find a interim town manager. And I
Yep.
guess that process presumably is underway, and maybe they've started going after a successor to you.
Yeah, I think
And,
hopefully that'll be announced here by next Friday.
yeah,
Yeah, there's nothing to announce on that front yet, but
Yeah.
there'll be an interim, I think, probably anywhere from 3 to 6 months, and then they'll go out.
I can only assume you'll be happy to talk to whoever comes in,
Oh, yeah.
give them some
Absolutely.
help and stuff.
Yeah, because we got some other things some projects that are, you know, in the background going. I'm not sure what the board will do on that front, but
Yeah.
but obviously I want whoever takes this seat to be able to carry out everything. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's you never want to see anything fall apart after you leave. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Biggest issues facing the town, I guess you have a buyer, Mitch Montaigne, former select board
yep.
member. Has that closed yet or not?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Nope. Let's see, the 30-day window selling public property, the appeal window opened, I think, June 16th or 17th.
Huh.
So as long as no petition is filed with
Yeah.
5% of the voters by July 17th, then the closing date is looking like it'll be the last week of July.
Yeah, so it sounds like that should presumably go through, I would guess.
Yeah, I was really hoping to be here for that. I'll tell you, just because that's been
Yeah, it was one of the issues you were dealing with from day one, obviously.
yes, that has been
That was a tougher issue than, I'm sure I've asked you that before, tougher issue than you thought? Did you
oh yeah.
think that much tougher?
I can honestly say I've never been through
Wow,
that much this interesting of a process to sell
Really?
property
Is
before.
that right?
Without question. There's no close second. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think it was so, I mean, obviously it's an old building, septic issues, but still nothing out of the ordinary for kind of an old building?
Yeah, I think really, honestly, in my opinion, that besides the process,
Yeah,
it kind of shows more of the local investment or developer environment, if anything. I mean, if you had a water sewer down there,
Yeah.
it would have been sold
yeah,
the week after it was
Right.
put on the market.
right,
But it's there were a couple things and offers over the course of my 2 years
yeah,
that one had a contingency, not really involved in our purchase and sales agreement,
yeah,
but they were only going to do it if they were able to get another property as well,
huh,
not from us, a separate property,
Yeah.
and that didn't happen, so that one fell through. That would have been very exciting.
Yeah.
If they were able to do that. But yeah, if the water sewer thing was there, it wouldn't have been like this, I'd like to think.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not
And
up to me.
speaking of that, I mean, that might be in the future. I certainly hear talk about that, extending at some point, water
Yep.
sewer lines down to the Bay Area.
Yeah, I mean, I was knocking on those doors and kicking those tires pretty much every day since I've been
Is
here.
there some movement on that front now? Is that, we certainly talk about it.
Yeah, we've certainly talked about it quite a bit. The price tag is pretty hefty.
Yeah, What, you got a rough price tag for that?
To do the whole town,
Or how about just
Just to the
getting,
bay?
what about just to the bay?
water and sewer to the bay, it would be around the 12 to 15 million
Wow,
range.
is that
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Wow.
But the new CHIP program, the Community Housing Infrastructure
Yeah.
Program, is, at least if I were here,
Yeah.
the way I would do it is, which would not be as heavy of a burden on the town, would require a lot of buy-in from developers.
Yeah,
But you could basically do it incrementally.
huh,
So you could, but the project has to be big enough to get the infrastructure to that point.
yeah,
But a private developer could technically harness that without having to go to a bond vote and that type of thing.
yeah,
I mean, the way I just put that made it sound very easy,
yeah.
but it is another, in my opinion, it's outside of the big TIF, as the state calls it,
Yeah,
it's the most impactful economic development tool that Vermont has passed in a long
Right.
time. Yeah. It's basically a project-based TIF. I don't know why nobody likes to use that term here in Vermont.
huh,
But it's basically a project-based TIF, similar to things I did in Virginia. We call them performance agreements, but
huh,
same thing. As long as it has to be a housing project, and it has to have at least 15% of floor space dedicated, has to have 60% of square footage dedicated to residential,
huh.
and the but-for clause, which is, it just doesn't happen but for.
Brings me back to State Auditor Doug Hoffer and the battles with St.
Ooh,
Albans.
yeah, he's not a fan of it at all. I believe he called it fairy dust.
Is that right, fairy dust?
Yeah, he testified right after Dom did, in May, I think it was, and he called it
Interesting.
fairy dust. And
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
they're on each other's Christmas card list, huh?
no, I don't. I think there's a
Actually,
few
Doug
people.
Hoffer in his last term, which you probably know, I guess he
Mhm.
announced a while back, is,
Yeah.
I think is Tim Ash, I think is his deputy,
Mhm.
former Burlington City Councilor, former state senator.
Okay.
And I heard Tim on VMT a while, I think I met him once long ago.
Yeah.
But I think he's seriously, as you might guess,
Going.
thinking about running for auditor.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting opinion to
Yeah.
have in that seat.
Yeah. Of course, one of our state senators, Randy Brock, former state auditor.
Mhm.
And easy to think when Randy ran for re-election, I think he was running for a second term, a very tight race against Tom Salmon Jr., as I recall,
No
the
kidding.
son of the former governor.
Okay.
And very tight race, but at one point Salmon actually conceded. Votes kept changing and stuff, so he unconceded. And I think Randy won by probably, I'm sure less than a few hundred votes in the
Wow.
original count. Went to a recount, as I recall. My memory's shaky, but
Yeah.
the recount went the other way, and
Wow.
Salmon won.
That was the Vermont version of Bush v. Gore, huh?
Yeah.
That was wow.
And then Randy picked the wrong year to run for governor. It was
Yeah.
a tough race against Peter Shumlin, only to have things fall apart for Shummy. And
Okay.
Scott Milne, a truly hapless campaign, ran 2 years later and just about beat him.
Wow.
If Randy run 2 years later, he might still be governor.
No kidding.
Funny
Wow.
how things
I didn't know that.
work out.
Yeah. No kidding.
Anyway,
And he's been helpful, actually. Senator, I have to give a big shout out first and foremost to Representative Dickinson.
yeah,
Um,
so she's been stays on top of stuff for you guys?
she's been awesome.
Yeah.
To me personally, privately I call her my political pit bull.
Oh, really? Huh.
She is, she picks up when I call, and
Yeah,
she's helped me get into meetings with some high level people.
yeah,
Just back in May, I would say largely because of her. It was me. I'm going to tease some things. I can't really talk about it, but
yeah,
I had a meeting with a commissioner of one of the departments of the state,
yeah,
and she got Senator Norris, Senator Brock, herself, and then me and Jack went down to Montpelier for a pretty important
Jack Brigham.
Jack Brigham. Yeah. And I don't think that happens without her. Yeah.
And I think Lynn Dickinson, she's our most veteran legislator at this point in the Franklin County delegation.
Yeah, she's been.
I think she's
for a long
probably,
time.
yeah, top
Yeah.
of the line in there.
Yeah, she called me on 4th of July to talk about some other stuff. Always working.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, she really has been excellent. It's honestly, the community support has been excellent since I've been
Yeah.
here. Obviously, elected officials have been great, but there's been like a really flattering outpouring of support
Yeah.
from a lot of people in the community since the announcement,
yeah,
and it's kind of I'll just say flattering. It's been
no,
whatever I've done to get that
yeah.
is pretty cool.
So I can assume some mixed emotion. I mean, it sounds like you're going to do a good job and stuff, but some mixed emotions about getting out of here.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things. It's 2 years. Sure, it isn't a long time.
Yeah.
That type of thing. I know a lot of people now.
But
Not just through mostly just through work, but and other things. But it's pretty much wherever I go now. You get stuff. Actually, the mayor of Rutland came to St. Albans last week.
Mayor Dunges?
Dunges, yep.
Yeah.
Mike, yep. Mayor Mike, as he goes.
And they actually, excuse my voice, they actually pay the mayor of Rutland, I think. In fact, actually,
Yeah.
he's the main guy. It's not a
Oh,
city.
It's a strong mayor.
They obviously
Yeah.
a strong mayor.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I call it at least, yeah.
Strong mayor.
Burlington and Rutland, I think, are the only two.
I guess
in the city.
Plattsburgh City is now looking into possibly going from strong mayor to city manager. I
Yeah.
guess that's getting some attention now.
That's the trend
I'm sure, I
for
would guess
decades.
that's a trend.
Yeah, now. Actually, my home area, New London, Connecticut, went the opposite way.
No, really?
They had the city, I think it was an administrator, but
Huh.
this is 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And they went back to strong mayor.
No, really?
They bucked the trend.
Interesting.
But yeah, no, I met with him, and he's a very forward-thinking guy.
Is he technically your boss here? I assume there's a board of
Yeah.
directors with the RRA.
Yep, they'd be my bosses.
They're your bosses.
That's kind of why I say the RRA is the component, economic development component.
Yeah.
I think the term is actually a component unit.
Huh.
So technically, no, I'm separate, and
Yeah.
I think that's on purpose, because who knows what happens with the mayor,
Yeah.
elected, especially a strong mayor system. At least that's my understanding of it. But yeah, the RRA board is my.
Had your predecessor in the job you're going to be taking, had he or she been there long? What happened to that?
He was only there for, I think, just over a year.
Oh,
But
yeah.
so actually the mayor brought him to the city. So
Oh,
he's
is that
now
right?
director of planning and zoning for the city of Rutland.
So moved to a different
Yeah.
job in the city?
He just moved he pretty much moved 2 floors. He
is
just
that
went,
right?
yeah, because my office would be in the city hall
Yeah.
as
So
well.
So you know that you've obviously met this
Mhm.
person?
Yeah, it's Ed Bove.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice guy, planning background. He used
Huh.
to be the director of, he's basically the Catherine Dimitrick of
Oh, is that right?
that area. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's which is a very complementary skill set for me.
Yeah.
Because, kind of in our field, there's planners and there's economic developers.
Yeah.
So it's, you should have both,
Yeah.
in the room. So
So have
That's
you got
good.
some folks under you? I mean, folks working for you basically? Or is there a staff? Have you got a few people?
yeah, just a few people.
Few people.
Yeah, yeah. So
Interesting.
kind of downsizing from about 20 full-time staff to just a few,
Yeah.
less than a handful, really. So, and that's mostly what I'm used to. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah. But I will say that the staff here has been really, really excellent.
Yeah.
And you never know what you're walking into with anything, because during
Yeah.
interviews, everybody's fine
Yeah.
and all that stuff. Wasn't always perfect by any means, but I had people I could rely on, and I think they know that I supported them throughout.
Yeah.
It's yeah, and thanks to ARPA, I could do a lot for them also.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
So the town, you feel like you're leaving the St. Albans town in pretty decent shape?
I really do.
Yeah.
In my 2 years, we've had, that didn't go over budget. We actually had 2 large
Of
surpluses.
course, the fiscal year just ended
Yeah.
about a week ago.
Yep, we just set the tax rate last night.
Oh, is that right? So you ended the fiscal year, the town in pretty good shape?
Yep. Then per the voters, they approved. I think it's, I'll be honest here, public. I think it's a silly thing that they have.
Yeah.
Do you allow the select board to, give back?
No.
However, I'm of course going to say yes.
Why wouldn't they, right, why would
Yeah.
anybody in their right mind say no to
Yeah.
that?
Well, 113 people did last year.
Is that 100?
I wanted to give them high fives. Yeah.
Is that right? 113
Last
said no?
year it was, yeah.
God, I'd love
Not
to
this
talk to
past
those
March,
folks.
but-
That's interesting.
You know a couple of them, yeah.
Right.
Yes, I know some prominent folks
Interesting.
that live in the town and work for the.
So the
city.
town's in pretty solid financial shape, you think?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that drew me to the job was
Yeah.
how financially stable they are.
Boy,
in
and
a good
even
position.
paying off the town hall, the Public Works Garage, LOT money,
That's paid.
you have a pretty good bunch of local option tax money
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
At this moment, any specific plans to, for that money right now?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, but I don't know if the board will move forward with one of
Yeah.
the things.
how much money's in there now, roughly,
2.5 million. I
Oh, is
think.
that right? Boy,
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that much.
Might be at 3 once the next.
Wow.
It will be around 3 once the payment.
Really?
And the state just actually upped the ratio.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they passed that. So
The state's taking a little less now, and the
Yep.
town's getting a little more.
Before it
What,
was
about 1/3 or 30% or
30%
something
was
for
the
the
state.
state?
Yep. And now it's
Interesting.
25. Now it's
Oh,
75,
really?
25.
Oh, I'm not
Yeah.
sure I took note of that.
Yep.
Interesting.
We were pushing for 80, of course,
Yeah,
because the state uses those funds for pilot payment in lieu of taxes
Yeah.
for state-owned property.
yeah,
And they have a surplus. They have something like a $14 million surplus.
wow,
So we were saying like, hey, why don't you just give that
yeah,
back to us, that
Yeah.
type of thing. And to their credit, they listened, so at least a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Biggest issues facing the town, what most comes to mind as you about to head south? More stormwater issues, that
Ugh.
comes to my mind.
I
but
won't miss
Probably
that.
not gonna miss that
I
much,
will-
huh?
I will not miss that at all.
No, that's,
Yeah.
and don't you have about a couple dozen projects out there or
Oh,
so?
yeah. Easy, yep. By the time we get to the town gets through all the list of projects that the state has designated as MS4 projects,
Yeah.
it'll probably be in the tens of millions of dollars.
At that point,
Yeah, if we did it right now, if we did every project right now,
Really?
just for example's sake, it would be like 18 million, I think.
is that right?
Yeah, I might be off on that.
And obviously, you're getting outside funding, but it sounds like the funding issue is never totally clear, or am I wrong about that?
No, you're not wrong about that at
Yeah.
all. I think that's the frustrating part for me, even as an
Really?
outsider coming in.
Yeah.
I was like, oftentimes the state will say, hey, these are some problem areas, but they won't put a deadline on it.
Yeah,
And so basically the term unfunded mandate, kind of comes to mind. I mean, we've got 2 grants,
Yeah.
one that we chose to do on the Tanglewood project,
yeah.
and the other
That's
one
just
for
about,
Cloud
that's
Mountain.
just about finished, or?
I would love to say yes, but no. There was
Really?
kind of a blessing in disguise with
Huh.
the rain event that we got
Oh,
back in mid-May,
huh,
because it showed that the design,
really?
well, it's not designed to take the stormwater runoff off the SASH,
Yeah,
the St. Albans State Highway.
huh,
So it crosses over into the neighborhood, whereas that gravel wetland is only designed to take the neighborhoods
Wow,
So all the rain, or not all, but a good chunk of the rain, that even comes off the hill
really?
down and it goes right there.
Wow.
So it actually they went over the side of the pond, which it wasn't done yet anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But what it did was it showed us like, okay, wow, let's put a pause on this and redesign it.
Really?
Which is not, obviously, hasn't been great for the residents, but
Yeah.
we're back on it. It will be done this summer.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. And we're adding some things to it. It's gonna cost a little more money, but we wanna do it right and,
Yeah.
yeah, because we don't wanna finish it only to have to open
Sure.
it back up again
Yeah,
and
sure.
do that, so.
Yeah.
It's
New firehouse, fire department headquarters, that sounds like that's something that's definitely needed down the road. Is that pretty active movement on that front, Sean?
It was, probably for my first year here, it was.
Yeah.
But then it was a matter of like, all right, how many things can we do at once? Finding the site.
And
the
again, so
funds
not
and-
clear, I guess the hope was to have the same site, but you may not have enough room there, is that not clear?
Yeah, may not. I imagine my successor will put a, RFP out for
Yeah,
an A&E firm and
all right,
they can do that. Some people think that there is room there. There's other thoughts of, I formally requested from the state, sorry to kind of jump around here,
yeah,
for them to give us, to sell us the old state garage on Lower Newton.
oh, I think you might have mentioned that before.
Yeah, so there was hope that if we were to get it, because it's in the town,
Yeah,
that maybe we build a bigger, what is the term they call it? Public emergency hut, something like that,
Oh,
with
yeah.
kind of a cross between, not just
Yeah.
fire, but police.
yeah,
And then use the existing fire department as like a, remote one, depending, because
yeah,
people are worried about the train tracks splitting it,
yeah,
which hasn't really been an issue my time here, but
yeah,
I understand those concerns. But yeah, we'll see what the state does with that.
yeah.
I thought that would be announced by now, but
Huh.
I haven't heard yet.
Thought Bay Day went well, caught some of Bay Day, some good music and
Yeah.
good fireworks, so.
Yeah, I was in the dunk tank.
Oh, is that right? I heard Mayor Smith also.
Yeah, he was the bookend. He was the last one.
Oh, really? You both logged some time there.
We both got dunked quite a bit, but I think he took
Yeah.
the cake. He had a lot of his family and stuff. It was Amanda Headley and me, Jonathan
No,
Giroux.
really? Wow. No, sorry I missed you. I got there a little late, I guess.
Yeah, we raised some good money too for Stonehouse repairs.
Yeah.
Um,
In fact, I was unfortunately down to about 2 minutes here,
Yeah.
but Stonehouse, boy, maybe another issue you're not gonna miss too much. That certainly grabbed a bunch of your time.
I will miss that project. That's one thing I really wanted to see
Yeah.
done.
And the future of that, just not real clear at this point?
Laz Skangus is on that.
Okay.
So he's doing the assessment
Good-
right now.
good
and-
person.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we almost had to repair a few windows after the dunk tank.
Oh, is that? is that
Yeah,
right?
we put it in front of the house,
Wow.
but thankfully not. But
Wow.
yeah, we'll see.
Geez, Sean, Dan probably could have done another half hour, down to a little
Yeah.
over a minute, but, again, pretty good feelings, a couple of years up here, you're off
Mhm.
to Rutland, we wish you well, and what sounds
Thank
like a
you.
really good new job, but,
Yeah.
Sean, hopefully you had a couple pretty decent years up here.
Yeah, and kind of like I said in the paper too. One thing that really irked me pretty much throughout my time was when I heard people say the city and the town don't talk to each other
Yeah,
and don't work with each other.
sounds like city and town are doing pretty well these days, of course, the big historic agreement, but,
Mm-hmm.
and even before that, I think city and town in some issues, Public Works
Yeah.
probably did better than a lot of people were thinking, but.
Yeah, fire
But these
department
days,
too.
sounds like pretty good relationship.
Yeah, even in actual projects,
Yeah.
I've had zero issue working with the city.
Yeah,
I think it's just a lot of that old, there's just a little bit of I'll say an outdated attitude.
yeah.
Some folks both in the city and the town. But
Yeah.
I'll say administratively, professionally speaking, we've had a great relationship
Yeah.
since I've been here. And I feel very good about the state of the town as I'm leaving. Yeah.
Very good. Hey, on that positive note, we'll leave it
Yeah.
right there, but thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Thanks for accessibility. We wish you well in the future.
Appreciate it.
Thanks to
Come on
Sean Adkins, the outgoing St. Albans Town Manager. Thanks to producer Alan Cunningham. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. Thanks for watching us and dealing with here on Northwest Access TV. See you next time. Thanks.